Well, over the years, Honor Flight Rochester has flown thousands of veterans to Washington, D.C. to give vets the opportunity to visit the monuments built in their honor. At the helm is Richard Stewart, president of Honor Flight Rochester. He's gearing up for their 55th mission to the nation's capital, and he joins us today to tell us more. Thanks for coming on, Rich.
Thank you so much for having me.
How long has Rochester had an Honor Flight program?
The Rochester hub formed in 2008.
Okay.
And the national network started 3 years earlier in 2005. So, we're a full 9 years into this thing right now, and it's just as fresh and as ever, because with each mission, there's a whole new plane full of veterans, a whole new plane full of guardians, and a whole new set number of families that to be involved and excited.
What happens on an Honor Flight mission?
Well, it starts out 4 a.m. on Saturday morning at the airport to get on an airplane at 6, to fly to Baltimore and get in by 7, to get on 3 motor coaches to travel down to D.C., Patriot Guard type of escort.
Right.
8 memorials seen, and the memorials are beyond powerful when the veterans are touring them with their contemporaries. Back onto the motor coach to Baltimore to check into the hotel by 5, a round of drinks, another round of drinks, a banquet with 125 people, because every veteran has a guardian, and we travel with some support people, safety and bus leader types. A few more drinks, then pass the microphone back to Rochester after having a buffet breakfast Sunday morning, and a rousing welcome home at the airport around midday. And really what happens, the veterans, even the stoniest and the coldest, at some point will get a little moisture out of their eye over the weekend as they reminisce or connect or have a flashback or whatever.
Right.
And for some of them, they get younger. They open up and they make new friends, or they find, we'll do thumbnail sketches when we're on this bus trip from Baltimore down to DC. Oh, radio operator, Korea, such and such a year. And we'll announce that, and usually someone else in the bus will say, same place, same time, different assignment or whatever. So they
connections are made.
They open up and they get to know each other.
What's the first stop on the trip?
World War II is what we have been doing, because that was the prime mover in getting this off the ground. So that's the first one in the morning. Okay. And then first one after lunch is the Arlington, the Tomb of the Unknowns. At World War II, now the principal person behind funding the World War II memorial is Senator Bob Dole. He's retired. He's in his 90s. And he's out there when weather permits for a photo op and a few words to the vets every day he can. So he shows up, and it could be 90 degrees outside. He's in his starched shirt, tie up tight, just like he was in the Senate. And he brings along a side chair with mahogany and leather, and it's like he's holding court, and it's great.
What does that mean for the veterans?
They are so thrilled that they have not been forgotten, and that what they did all these years later is being remembered. And many of them are getting thanks that they never received first time around. So it means a lot to them. So I think the longer they went without the popular thank you and acknowledgement, the more it means.
Who's eligible to take an Honor Flight?
In Rochester, and there are 130 hubs around the country, 135 hubs around the country. Each has a little bit different requirements. What we're saying is all American veterans are eligible for their honor flight. We do it honorably discharged. We do it by oldest era first. Okay. And then along with oldest era first, catastrophic health can bring you to the front of the line. So someone could be a Gulf War veteran, catastrophic health issue, and travel. More normally we get all the World War IIs before we go to Korea and right on through. For the most part, we're still a ways away from doing Vietnam in any sizable numbers. We've done a few health issue Vietnams, but in the future, not too distant future, not this year, but we plan to be giving all the Vietnam veterans the welcome home they so richly deserve.
Right. So when you do have a veteran that has some health conditions or a wheelchair, how do you accommodate them?
Okay. We travel with a wheelchair. We call them a transport chair because they're smaller wheels. Every veteran has a wheelchair. Now, some of that can be in terms of, well, they're healthy, they walk and all the rest. Well, think of it as a kind of a traveling park bench for them. When we're at the Tomb of the Unknowns, that might be a 20-minute, a half-hour ceremony.
Right.
And that wheelchair becomes a pretty neat place to sit down because otherwise there wouldn't be.
Right.
Also, if they have the wheelchair, they get preference right up front, all that. So that's one. Also, we interview pretty well the veterans as they sign up for the flight.
Okay.
So if there's significant mobility issues, there are only so many bus lift seats on our buses and all that. So that might be a limitation where someone that might have to wait for a future mission because there are only so many bus lift seats available.
Right.
But we travel with off-duty registered nurses and EMTs, and they're off-duty. They just are there to monitor and to keep an eye on people, but they're really good, and intuitively they can figure out if someone's going to have an issue before it surfaces and figure out how to get them a glass of water or whatever. So we're real interested in saying yes to anyone that possibly can take that mission.
Okay.
But the mission is for them, so they need to be alert and aware on what's going on as we take them.
And what is a guardian, and who can be a guardian?
Each veteran requests a guardian, and it has to be 18 to 70, in passably good enough health to really monitor and watch and assist that older veteran through the weekend. Usually next generation down, usually family member, could be close friend, not a spouse. And if they cannot find one, we have plenty of people that are more than willing to be what we call a solo guardian.
How do you make all of this possible? You have a lot of volunteers that help out?
With each mission, there's probably, I would guess, 150 to 200 volunteers participate to make the thing happen. Now, many of them are at the welcome home. Some of them are at the send-off. If you're going to have someone up at 4 a.m. on Saturday morning, they may simply want to pass on being there Sunday afternoon. But yeah, there are hundreds involved. And it kind of grew from the very beginning with a few people with a really great idea, and now it's it's not just a few dozen people helping, it's a few hundred people helping.
Right. Is there a cost for veterans to fly on an honor flight?
The honored veteran travels for free.
Wow.
No cost. It costs Honor Flight through the Rochester community, which generously funds us, $500 per traveler. The Guardian, we ask for a $300 contribution, and the reason for the discount is we put them to work for the weekend. So, if we say you really got to get them out of bed the next morning for breakfast, because breakfast starts at 6 a.m.
You're on a tight schedule.
Yeah, the Guardian has to step up and make that happen.
What happens during mail call?
Mail call, as we take off from Rochester, there's probably 40 schools anyway that are very actively writing letters, their students, to the veterans. They personalize them. So they get a little bit of a thumbnail in terms of who that veteran is. And then depending, it could be from grade school right on up through high school, personalized letters are written, and each one gets 6, 8, 12 letters per. And they get to open up, and it gives them a real good flashback to when they were in the service, and that mail call was infrequent and so important to them.
Final question, Rich. Why is this so important? Why is this work so important?
It's so important to me because there's so many out there that did not get the thank you for the sacrifice and the service they did so many years ago. A lot of the World War IIs, my father was one, he passed away long before the World War II was memorial with it. They grew up during the Depression. they went to war. They really came back and kind of got in lockstep and put their nose to the grindstone and just went about raising families and getting careers and all the rest of it. They really never got the newsreel welcome home going down Broadway. Some did, but most didn't. An awful lot were train station in the middle of the night and the phone booth for someone to come pick them up. So I do it for the thank you that my father never received, and the memorial he never got to visit.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for coming on today. If you'd like to learn more about Honor Flight Rochester, you can call 585-210-2115 or visit honorflightrochester.org.